All right. Good morning, guys. Mr. Milton here. Today we're going to talk about factoring trinomials. And then x squared plus bx plus c is just the quadratic trinomials that we're used to seeing a little bit. By the end of this video, you should be able to factor trinomials. We'll look at some patterns that happen when we multiply them to help us understand our strategy when it comes to factoring them. Okay, and just like factoring a GCF, by the end of the problem, we want to start off with what looks like a multiplication problem. Okay, so to remind us, here's a typical multiplication problem. When I ask you to multiply two binomials, you would see this. Okay. Well, there were two ways that we talked about multiplying binomials, and one of the ways was the box method. Okay. We'll use the box method today, and so I'll show multiplying x plus 3 times x times plus 5 using the box method. So we can see our answer here. Alright, so we got a box. Alright, I have x, I have 3, I have x, I have 5. Okay, and in each box I'm just going to write the products, 3x, okay, 5x, 15. Alright, so as we write this out, we have x squared. Combine our like terms, we have 8x. Here at the end we have 15. Okay. We could do this with other values. If I gave you, I'll just give you, do one more, I'll do x minus 4, x plus 2, just so we can see a pattern, I guess. I'll FOIL this, and we'll focus on the answer there. So we'd have x squared plus 2x minus 4x minus 8. Combine our like terms, we'd have x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, so a couple patterns. I want to point out a couple patterns, a couple things that stay constant here, so that we can learn how to factor them, or at least use those that information to factor. So what happens here, if you notice in both the first and the second example, this last number, c, okay, first notice that everything falls into this pattern, x squared plus b, b is the number in front of the x without the exponent, or with the 1 as the exponent, and c is the number that doesn't have a variable by it. Okay, so notice that c, this last number, was always these two numbers multiplied by each other. Okay, 3 times 5, 15. Negative 4 times 2, negative 8. Okay, and notice that b was always these two numbers added together. Okay, 3 plus 5 was 8. Negative 4 plus 2 was negative 2. Okay, and so we'll use that in order to find out and to factor trinomials. And I'll point this out a little bit differently here. Okay, with this setup, we have x squared bx, right, plus bx plus c. Okay, we'll talk about, I'll write an a here. Okay, today a is always going to be 1, but we'll talk about a little bit later on in the week. And I said that this number in the middle was always the sum of our two, I guess I'll say constants in our binomials. Okay, so I like to call b the sum number. Okay, this is the sum number. C was always the product of these two numbers, 3 times 5, negative 4 times 2. So 3 times 5 became 15, negative 4 times 2 became negative 8. So this is the product number. All right. Alright, so what we do then is we will try to find the sum number, the product number, and what we'll try to do is find two numbers that make both of those true. So in this case, we would try to find two numbers that add together to give us 9, because that's the sum. Or sorry, add together to give us 8, because that's the sum, and multiply together to give us 15. And those two numbers that would do that would be 3 and 5. And our goal will be to fill in the inside of the box with these values and factor them out. Okay? So we'll go through our first example. Hopefully that will kind of set the stage for how we're going to do these problems. Okay. So let's look at this first example. We have x squared plus 7x plus 12. All right. Make this plus sign just a little bit bigger. Okay. So my sum number is 7. I want to find two numbers that add together to give me 7. I'm just going to say blank plus blank equals 7. Our product number is 12. I want to find two numbers that multiply to give me 12. So blank times blank gives me 12. Alright, take a second. Think, what two numbers make both of these true? Alright, so I'm thinking the two numbers that make both of this true are 4 plus 3 gives me 7. 4 times 3 gives me 12. Okay? Good. Alright, so I am now going to, should give myself a little bit more space, but I'll make it work. Okay, I am now going to put this in the box. Alright, now this is how our box method changes just a little bit. Last time when we were multiplying, we were filling in the inside of the box. Today we're factoring it. We're going to fill in we're going to basically take it out of the box. Okay? So, how we populate this box, this last number, we'll go here, 12. X squared will go here. And the two values that we just found, 4 and 3. We'll go here with the variable. Okay? And so now through each row and each column, we're going to take out the GCF. So here, the GCF between 4x and x squared is x. The GCF between 3x and 12 is 3. I'll do the same thing here. The GCF between x squared and 3x is x, and the GCF between 4x and 12 is 4. Okay, so I factored this out. I have my two factors here. I'm just going to write them as the answer. I have x plus 3 and x plus 4. And that's my answer. Okay. I'll write it a little bit more smaller, or a little smaller this next time because I know I have space to do it. I just wrote too big. Alright, let's look at it again. Alright, for B, this is our sum number. I'm trying to find, actually let me populate this box first. That's usually what happens. Okay, so I've got this box. I already know two things that are going to be inside this box. I already know that D squared is going to be in this top one. I already know that 42 is going to be in this bottom right box. Okay, what I'm trying to do is figure out how to split this middle term in order to give me the factors. Okay, so the way that we split it, I'm trying to find two numbers that add to give me negative 17 in this case, and multiply to give me 42. Okay, take a second, think about those numbers. And anytime you're having trouble coming up with those numbers, sometimes thinking through it helps out. But a lot of times you can even set up a table. Okay, when you set up the table, I know I wrote it as addition and then multiplication. But I always think about the multiplication first, because there are less numbers that will multiply to give you 42, or less possibilities. And there are possibilities that add to give you negative 17. You can take any number has a number that adds to get negative 17. But 42, there's a way smaller list. Okay? And with these lists, this is what I do. Anytime I'm having trouble thinking of it, I don't try to guess it, because I usually go back to guessing the same thing over and over again. So 142, 226, 3, 114. All right, that looks good. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right. And by this time, I would go 7 times 6, which is basically just repeating the list. So that's it. See? So just writing them all down. All the numbers that multiply to give me 42, I've written them down. All right. And this is a good time to talk about the signs. Notice the signs in front of these numbers. They also tell us something. Okay? This sign here is the sign in front of the product number. Okay? That means we're multiplying. Okay? When is multiplication positive? If the numbers have the same sign. When is multiplication negative? If the numbers have different signs. Here, this is the sign of the larger number. Okay, because if we're adding two numbers together, then if the larger number is positive, the sum will be positive. If the larger number is negative, the sum will be negative. Okay? That helps us out when the signs are different. Okay? In this case, the signs are the same because this is positive and this is negative. Okay, so they're both negative numbers. Okay, so that helps me out with this list because now I really don't have to repeat. And now I'm just going to go through this list and say, okay, all these multiply to give me 42. Which ones add to give me 17? There will only be one option that does that. So negative 3 plus negative 14. Negative 3 times negative 14. And there we go. That's what I'll have in these boxes. Negative 3D, negative 14D. And so I'll go through each row and each column and pick out the GCF. My GCF here is D. My GCF here is negative 3. My GCF here is negative 14. My GCF here is D. Okay? And so now I have D minus 3, D minus 14. Alright. Let's go through two more examples. Pick up the pace just a little bit. Alright. Now, I write this out so that you can see my thought process. You don't have to write this, multiply two numbers. You can just go into the box. I'll continue to write it out today. And you should write it out for your notes, but you don't have to do that forever. M squared, negative 20. Trying to find two numbers that multiply to give me negative 20 and add to give me 8. Okay? The two numbers will have different signs because one's positive and one's positive, one's negative. We can tell because it's a negative product. The larger number will be positive. Okay? Thinking right now, hopefully you're thinking a little bit. I'll come up with those numbers. 10 times negative 2, 10 plus negative 2. Okay? So I have 10m and negative 2m. It does not matter which box of these two you put them in. Okay, whether I put negative 2 up here or negative 2 down here, it'll give me the same factor. So I take out the factors m, take out the factor 10, take out the factor negative 2, take out the factor m, and so my product is m minus 2, m plus 10. Okay. And one more. Okay. That, making the box. Alright, filling in my box, I have p squared here, negative 40 here. Okay, I'm going to find two numbers that multiply to give me negative 40. Two numbers that add to give me negative 3. Okay, so I know that the signs are different because the product number sign is negative, and I know that my larger number is negative. Okay, you can pause and give yourself time to think of these numbers if you haven't already come up with it. I think I got it at negative 8 and positive 5. Negative 8 and positive 5. So I have negative 8p, positive 5p. And now I'll go through each row and each column and I'll take out the GCF. GCF here is p. GCF here is negative 8. GCF here is 5. GCF here is p. And so now I have p minus 8. Okay, and p plus 5 from this side. Okay, so that is factoring trinomials in the form x squared plus bx plus c. Really important, guys. The information here. Okay, this information here, if you didn't get to write it large enough, make sure that you go and focus on that, because really that's everything. If you can do that, if you remember that, then you will be able to make your way through all of these problems. And the more practice you get with this, I think the more fluent it will be. Okay, it seems like there's a lot of work to write out here, but as we go on, you'll see that a lot of this is thinking in your head and doesn't necessarily have to be written out. Okay, so we took up some space so you can see the thought process, but as we get smoother with this, we'll be able to kind of focus with just the box and understanding how to separate these. Okay, all right, we'll practice more of this tomorrow. Have a good one.